What's up, traders? It's Robert Falco here from Real Life Trading. Dan Janson and me are bringing you another edition of the Real Life Earnings Report. Let's get into it. All right, good evening, Dan. Another earnings review. It's going to be a busy next couple weeks, I think, for us.
We have our work ahead of us for the next rest of the earnings season, but tonight we have a good one. We got Tesla on board tonight.
Yeah, this is one of the big boys. I think the stock's up like 400% year to date and has put in some crazy moves, some splits, all kinds of wild stuff going on. And today we have their Q3 earnings update, and I'm actually pretty impressed with the Q3 earnings. So as we dive in here, the thing that impresses me the most personally, if I scroll down to their deliveries, and 139,593 vehicles delivered in Q3. That's up 54% quarter over quarter. Again, last quarter that they did have some shutdowns and things like that with coronavirus. But even if you look at from like a cyclical standpoint of Q3 being a bit stronger, 44% up year over year. So it doesn't seem like there's a demand problem, and they're able to deliver those cars. So pretty strong. What jumped out at you?
Yeah, I mean the deliveries plus the total production. Total production's highest ever. Deliveries are highest before Q3 of 2019, Q4, Q1 of this year, Q2. Q2 you have to kind of take a little bit lighter, and they still had good numbers, all things considering, because there was some factory shutdowns, all that stuff. But they're cranking. I mean, they're delivering the cars. I mean, that's what's going to bring them the revenue. So just the fact that you see a pretty relatively consistent increase every quarter, that's an investable company. That's something that shows good potential, and there is obviously a demand for Tesla. They do have some challenges that they're still working on. Like the main thing for them, I mean, as soon as and Elon said it on the call tonight too, is they're still focused on getting a $25,000 Tesla out there, and I think that's the goal. And once that hits that, their sales, I mean, could be enormous.
Yeah, I think the key for them is really going to be this battery technology in order to lower the price that much, which it's still probably 24 to 36 months out. I know they have a whole slide in here about batteries, and battery day was like a pretty much a non-event, a little bit of a liquidity event for people to sell. If you're like a technology nerd, you probably loved it, but basically for all us laymen's out there, you got to take a look at the bottom here. They're improving the efficiency and the cost of the batteries, and so that means that there's a range increase, kilowatt hour cost reduction, and also capex reduction. So the amount of money they have to spend, and they're more efficient if they're able to get these new batteries out there. And so then they'll be able to build that cheaper car, because not everyone can buy a $40,000 Model 3. The other thing that I thought was pretty impressive was revenue growth too. If you just look at automotive, which again, this Tesla is primarily an auto company. I know people like to say, oh, it's software and it's this and it's that. It might be in the future, but right now it is an auto company. They produce vehicles and a little bit of solar, but the quarter over quarter automotive revenue 47%, and then year over year 42%. This just goes to show you, this is last quarter. This is how bad last quarter was. I know some people thought like last quarter was really great. Last quarter over quarter was 1%. Year over year was -4. So I think that just shows how bad last quarter was. So I think this is actually a really good improvement. Even though the stock like right now is not necessarily acting like it, it's only up a small percentage after hours. I think a lot of this was baked in. But if you are a shareholder of Tesla, I think you'd be pretty happy with these results, at least, that some of the valuation is starting to catch up a bit.
Yeah, and you see that margin increasingly growing as well. with the quarter. So the fact they're producing more, they're able to bring their costs down. Those are substantial numbers, especially in the long term. It puts it as a relatively safe company, and they do have like we were talking about Battery Day. Um, once the technology is there, once it's created, even number one, you get in the car price down, so again, more affordable to, I would say, the regular people in the world that are looking for a car, and now you're in the same level playing field as many of the other, I guess, standard car companies. But then the semi truck industry, I think, is going to be huge once they're trying to make a stronger battery that could help make the truck and semi autos more sustainable as well. So if that gets into place, which I think is down the road, it's not going to be Q4. I doubt that they're coming out with the technology for both the regular battery and the semi truck. But once they have the semi truck, they're competing with, Nikola. uh, that's a win on Tesla. So there's no, it's a wide open field, and they do have already some production in works and designs and things like that. So as soon as that gets out there, and the other positive thing is, we know that they're building the other plants in Shanghai, Berlin, and Austin. So those are underway. Austin, I think they're you have some pictures there, I think, that they put in the report.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, they have some pictures down here. Let's see if we can find them. This is Shanghai. Pretty massive, it looks like. Look at these. These are casting machines, so they pretty much cast the entire unibody of the vehicle in like one foul swoop. So that's pretty amazing. And then this is going to be Giga Berlin.
Yeah, these are, I mean, just these are no joke factories. They're building the amount of real estate that one of these factories takes up, and the one in Austin, it's all just level ground. So there's still, you like to see a company developing and growing to an extent that's not out of their capacity, like the Krispy Kreme model, where there was a Krispy Kreme on every 3.5 blocks, and
Yeah.
people only ate so many donuts. You do have a demand with Tesla. It's definitely sought after as a, at this point, a luxury car. My thoughts are, if they do have a $25,000 car, does that take away a little bit of the shine of the bigger models? Maybe, but they're in their own category. They really are. As Elon said on his call, I mean, they have 10% in common with other car companies at this point. So
Yeah, you can
they're the
see as
leader.
far
The,
as
the technology there.
sorry, as far as expanding, I just want to make this point real quick. I mean, those giant factories, you can see their capex expenditure. This is in millions, so that's $1 billion that they spent in quarter 3 on capex. So that's things like building those factories. So um, their net cash provided and used by operating activities 2.4 billion. They spent $1 billion. That's over almost double last quarter, double these prior quarters, almost triple from Q3. Yeah, Q3 of last year. So they're definitely investing in order to ramp up production. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it, they do have. We were talking about it before. They still need a decent amount of cars produced this quarter to hit their goal. I don't know if you have the exact number up there.
Yeah, so what we did in order to figure that out, so their goal is 500,000 vehicles. So you just go to these deliveries, you add up all these numbers. We did it right before we jumped on here. And it's about 180,000 cars, maybe 182,000, something like that. So they did 100 and let's round up, we'll give them 140,000. So they need another 41,000 additional. So they need to do 140 again and then another 41,000 in Q4. We're already 20 days in, 21 days into Q4. So I think it's a little bit of a tall order. However, we know Elon, he'll burn the midnight oil. And Q4 last year was their largest production. So if they are able to keep a strong quarter over quarter production and delivery number, I think that it's possible. I think there's going to be a little bit of a question of, are people going to be able to afford that many Teslas with, coronavirus, and, a lot more companies are doing layoffs and all that type of stuff now. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can hit that number. I don't think they've hit one of those annual production numbers yet.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Right now, it, the income gap of people is definitely different. The people that are looking to buy the $25,000 car, unfortunately, there are a lot of the people getting laid off and hurting the most during this. But with the people that have the money that um, can be that are shopping for Teslas in the certain price range that they're at now, they're the ones that are actually doing well with the market going up and everything like that. They're taking advantage of the opportunity. So the money is out there. And I would say the customer base that they're going after now probably actually has more liquidity than they did prior to coronavirus. So I think the customer base is still there. I don't think they're going to get too affected by the layoffs particularly, but I think that the production, the ability to actually produce that many amount of cars, it's going to be a fun one to watch. It's I'm looking forward to Q4 just to see if they can produce it. The one thing I think that some of the investors might be uh, not really weary of, because it's not really that norm, is that Elon gave no forecast for next year. Uh, Normally in a normal company with a normal CEO, this is Q3, so it's pretty standard not to kind of throw out the Q4 numbers. But I've already seen some kind of chats like, hey, they didn't give any forecast for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Normally it's a Q4 type thing. But I know they were asking it to Elon just because he's also Elon, and you could ask him a question and he might answer. You don't know. But he did shy away from kind of committing to numbers for next year. But yeah, everything in the report looks good, looks solid, and it's only up, I think, what, 3.4%, something like that, after
Let's see.
the
After hours
report.
up 3.1 right now.
3.1 right now. So not a huge new move for the numbers, but I think a lot of everything is priced in to Tesla right now. Long term, I think it's a huge growth. I mean, we talked about the opportunities that they have to grow, finishing some of their factories, getting into the semi-auto, uh, the semi trucking industry, and then again with the batteries, being able to lower the price of the overall car, things like that. They have a lot of still potential growth. So even at this price, it's still a growth company. Um, where would you be looking? How would you play this tomorrow? And since when we record this video, it does take us a day or two to actually get it out there. So besides tomorrow's trade, how would you trade this a week from now, a month from now? Where's your entry price, or is it just buy immediately?
Yeah. Real quick, one thing I did want to also uh, address, because I know we get this question like one off within some of the RLT stuff, is regulatory credits. Yes, the regulatory credits. There was a big increase overall this year, but it's starting to trail off a little bit. And so the good thing is you're seeing a lot of their free cash flow is not via regulatory credits, although that is what keeps them profitable is regulatory credits. So you can see their net income using generally accepted accounting principles. 331 million, and from regulatory credits is 397. So those are generally other automakers buying EV credits, from them. So I think it's a good thing that that's starting to decrease, because you don't want that to be like the main primary thing of Tesla. Like that's not their business model. I know that that's been argued in the past, and I think that's changing right now. As far as the stock, I like this gap. If we do open above both of these candles, I think that that's nice. Obviously, you can see I have a big pennant pattern drawn on here. This run up was just complete FOMO over here based on the split. Um, Robin Hooders just YOLOing out of the money calls. People that sell those calls have to buy shares in order to hedge against them. S&P 500 inclusion, which hasn't happened yet, that everyone thought it would. And S&P's made a couple additions, and Tesla hasn't been included. I personally think it's better that they don't get included right now for share owners, because I think that the stock can actually move a little bit better on its own without being in the S&P. But I do like this gap right here. Although, like you said, I think there's a lot of stuff priced in. And so I think we probably chop around sideways for a while. until maybe we get some guidance for next year, or maybe we start to hear rumblings. I know like Tesla's pretty famous for leaked Elon emails about how they're doing as far as deliveries, because there's going to be a
It
lot
doesn't
of
even have to be an email. He could just tweet it himself.
I think he's been a little bit better about that on Twitter. Although he put some awesome memes out on Twitter. But yeah, I think that buying shares, selling calls, selling puts, like anywhere. Yeah, there's notoriously great premium on Tesla. I mean, heck, I had December 100 puts that I had just recently bought back. But there's money all over this option chain if you're a fan of selling premium and you're willing to own lower. Otherwise, buy on dips. If it gets some really big up moves, like here, huge back-to-back days, or like this run up, like, sell calls up in this area. I really don't foresee it doing another one of these. Maybe it does. Again, these numbers are great, but I think a lot of that's priced in because the numbers over here, they weren't really that good. They weren't terrible, but compared to this quarter is much, much stronger. So that's kind of my take on Tesla.
Yeah, no, I like it. I agree with that. I buying the dip makes sense. Again, if you already own it, hold it. There's no reason. There's nothing in the report that I'm seeing that says immediately take your profit, sell it. And if I mean, it's almost one of those things where I say buy the dip, and then people just miss the dip. They just don't. It doesn't dip often or frequent. On occasion, you do get a couple sell offs, and maybe based around some kind of either news or market in general or tweets or whatever the case. But those would be the opportunities to really jump in. But I think Jeremy has, and for you guys that don't know, Jeremy is he runs the entire real life trading organization, but he's been extremely bullish on Tesla. If you guys don't know where he stands, somehow, if you don't know where Jeremy stands on the position, he's been extremely bullish, and I think his advice, just pyramid in, buy to own, and hold, is still phenomenal advice for anybody that's not in Tesla that wants to get in Tesla. I mean, don't to me, don't back the boat up at any price on any stock at any level, but pyramiding in at certain dips and things like that are just a good way to build a position in Tesla.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I see like more often in Tesla, but it happens anywhere, is like when the stock's coming down, everybody wants to buy a dip until it's time to buy the dip. Kind of like the whole like everybody wants to be a gangster until it's time to do gangster stuff. When the stock's pulling back really hard, it's like you got to buy into these, and sometimes it's scary. But if you want a position in order to buy low and sell high, like you have to buy. And if you're buying a portion and you're pyramiding, like you just said, if you got 4 or 5 entries, obviously it's your first entry. Like you're gonna go red on the position, and you just have to be okay with that if you want to get your second, third, fourth, or fifth entry lower with more shares. That's just the only way to do it, and you just have to be comfortable with that. And again, allocate a certain amount of your portfolio, and then you can always hedge with options if you have over 100 shares, whether that's selling calls, buying puts, all kinds of different spreads you can do. Tesla is just an options premium machine. We have all kinds of great videos, classes, from beginning to advanced. I helped my parents do some of their first option trading around Tesla, with selling covered calls that brought in pretty sizable money for them, because the option premium was just absolutely insane at like ridiculous, like 700 post split, and 680 and all these astronomical numbers, because Tesla is getting up there. I think this is like the 13th most valuable company. I mean, we're looking at 400 billion in market cap, so it's not a small company by any means. So the bigger and bigger it gets, the less likely that we're gonna have like these type of huge run ups, or that we should go up $200 in a month or something like that, which I think is healthy for the stock long term. That it doesn't have those giant swings, because then institutions are more likely to invest in things like that when something's not as volatile. And we know that's where the big money is, obviously.
Right. And I think the company itself aside, I mean, it's got the power of Elon behind it. And although he seems just at times completely insane or irrational, which you could definitely make cases in many situations that he is, um, you do like to back a CEO that gets his hands dirty, that doesn't mind. You mentioned before burning the midnight oil. I mean, there was tweets and videos and emails of him at 3 a.m. at the factory, just sleeping in the actual factory to make sure the production gets done. So you do want a leader in a company that has the ability to do that. He's well known. He can get the media attention when he needs it. So just somebody like that can by himself could move a stock, move a market, and kind of push product into development when need be. And I mean, what is he now? Is he the fifth richest man in the world? Is that what it is?
He's up there. He's up there for sure. It depends on what the stock is doing because he has so much stock, and that is something else that I personally like admire about him is he says, "Hey, if Tesla goes bankrupt, like I'm going bankrupt." Like most of his wealth
Yep.
is in his companies, and again, I know this is about Tesla, but we don't want to go down too much of an Elon rabbit hole. But the guy's also running SpaceX, the Boring Company, so he's literally building rockets, shooting things into space, digging tunnels under giant metropolitan cities, and while he's growing this company. So I think the whole thing about Tesla going bankrupt is pretty much out the door at this point. I think they have 14.5 billion in cash and cash equivalents. So at this point, it's just about what type of valuation do you really want to give this thing, and then picking your spots and entering and holding through some of those wild moves that it's probably still going to have. I don't think quite as often now, but I do think that there's still going to be some volatility.
Yeah, I mean, just from day trading Tesla, you see that there's volatility in the option, but it is one of those things where, and I mean, I know traders from real life trading that were pyramiding, and all of a sudden their shares are down, and I'm like, just wait, just wait. That's you have to expect, like you said before, your position might be in the red at some point. Tesla moves, but when it moves in the wrong direction, you feel a little queasy, but that's the time to just be strong and just add on. And when it moves crazy in the right direction, that's when you feel like a superhero and you're like, oh man, I'm the best investor. So it does have those wild swings. It is forming some kind of looks like some kind of pennant pattern just on the chart. So I mean, we could get a breakout in either way. I would most likely think it's probably going to be the positive direction. Post market, are we right at the center of that pennant? Tesla's
Pretty
right there.
much, yeah. I think we are literally like right in it. Of course, you can draw and extend these lines however you want to, but yeah, we're literally right in the middle. So I think chopping around sideways, the more sideways action, probably the better. I also think that it's one of those things that it's probably going to go more sideways just because now that there is more institutional money and things like that in it, that a lot of those people that bought those like out of the money calls and everything else like are just going to get absolutely smoked. The anticipated move was, I think it was like $50 or something on it. Let me just
I think it
double
was a
check.
$30 anticipated move
Yeah,
on Tesla.
$38 by the end of this week, and we're only gapping $13. So everybody who bought options is just getting absolutely hosed over
Right.
earnings. So I think that's another thing that's going to kind of keep it tamped down is to get some of that YOLO option, Wall Street bet money out of the stock, and I think that in the longer term, that's probably a healthy thing.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, I mean, so overall, uh, honestly, I mean, the reports are solid. You like to see a company that has the continued growth, has the cash on hand, is investing in itself as far as building new factories, new production, get out the numbers, and there's only with what they have now, there's only so much that they could do. But as the factories, and I think they're starting delivering, or at least from the conference call, I got that they're hopeful for deliveries from some of the other factories starting 2021, and then as soon as I don't know if there was a certain time frame that they put on the battery of trying to get the price down, but they're constantly working, reinvesting in themselves, their factories. So as an investor, I mean that's something that you want to see, that the growth is still there on the table.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to find something that I didn't really like on their financials, and I mean, it looks really good. Like, so other than, you know, the valuation, you just got to pick what you personally like and what fits your risk tolerance. But it's a fantastic report in my opinion. So yeah, be long.
I agree.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us again, everyone. Don't forget to check us out at reallifetrading.com. Like, subscribe, hit that follow notification bell down below or up in the corner, you know, depending on where the editors put it. And love life, live life, trade it.